Welcome to another episode of the Miami Real Estate Show. Today, I had again the opportunity and the pleasure to interview one of the most powerful women in real estate in South Florida, Alicia Cervera Lamadrid. We had the opportunity to interview her last year, as a matter of fact, at the beginning of 2015, and she shared with us amazing insights. If you haven't seen that interview, please go back again and see that interview. It's just amazing. We did it with her and her mother, who's been in the business for so many years, and what we learned from that is just invaluable. This time we sat down and we compared 2015 to 2016, and then how she sees the real estate market not only today, but 12 months from now. She also shared her point of view on what it takes to become a successful real estate agent. At Cervera Real Estate, she manages over 350 successful real estate agents. And the qualities she shared with us are just amazing. So if you want to find out exactly how the real estate market is going to be from Alicia's point of view in the next 12 months, especially in South Florida, and if you want to find out what are the top qualities, top producers, real estate agents that are extremely successful in this business share, what do they have in common? Don't miss this interview and a great insights from Alicia Cervera Lamadrid. Make sure also that you listen to this interview via podcast, whether you have an iPad, an iPhone, or an Android device. You can listen to it while you're driving, while you're exercising. So until next week, make it a very productive day, and I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. Take care, guys.
This episode of the Miami Real Estate Show is brought to you by Perlin Title and Escrow Services Corp., an integrated solution for all your real estate closing needs. Supported by a skilled team of professionals in state-of-the-art technology, Perlin Title will satisfy your most demanding deadlines and meet your loftiest expectations. Perlin Title and Escrow Services, delivering above and beyond service with every commercial and residential real estate closing in Florida. Rising from the shores of Biscayne Bay in the emerging neighborhood of East Edgewater, Alice Miami sets a new standard for refining luxury with its masterful confluence of design, luxury, and waterfront location. At 57 stories, Alice is tall and impressive, but with only 100 residences, no more than 2 per floor, Alice maintains the intimacy and sophistication of living in a boutique-style building. Each residence has the unique distinction of having an unobstructed, breathtaking view of Biscayne Bay. A very unique tower, programmed to feel very much like a private home. For more information, contact Cervera sales team at 305-374-3434.
Welcome to another episode of the Miami Real Estate Show. Today, I welcome back Alicia Cervera Lamadrid. Again, a true honor and pleasure to have you back in the show. How are you?
I'm fine and happy to be back. It's always a pleasure to meet with you, and I love the work you do getting the message out about what's happening in our industry. It's a great thing.
Thank you very much. We'll talk about the first interview we did with you and your mom. I know it was a great interview. The comments were just amazing. You have to see that interview. It's the first interview we aired last year, and I mean, we had so many amazing comments. Now, tell me where we are today.
So today we're in the Sales Center for Elysee,
okay,
which is our newest project in the East Edgewater area. It's a beautiful tower designed by Arquitectonica and Bernardo Ford with the collaboration of Jean-Louis Dunois, which is an interior designer from Paris. Bernardo has an office in Paris and has done major buildings there. So to watch the collaboration, in fact, he speaks French perfectly.
Okay.
It was quite interesting to see
Nice.
the two of them working together. So the result has been a very unique product. It's only 100 units, 2 units per floor. Each unit is got an 180-degree view. The site is right on the water. So there's none of this when you want to see the water. It's all straight on, and all of that.
We
because
see
it's
the view
everywhere.
right here.
Right, here is the view. It's quite spectacular. The amenities are second to none, and it's really been programmed to feel very much like a private home.
So apart from being in an amazing area, Edgewater, with this great view, only 100 units, very exclusive, what makes this project so unique?
I think the approach to the project makes it very unique. It's difficult to do a boutique job because the sites oftentimes don't permit it. Right. Either the site is too expensive and it has a very high density, so in order to maximize or make it even profitable, you have to do a very large project. So it's kind of magical when you're fortunate enough to find a waterfront site that's the right size that allows you, with a reasonable economy of scales, to do a very high-end product. And that's what we have here. So in thinking about that product and the fact that it's only 100 units, the programming for the common areas feels like a home. So when you arrive to the Port of Cachet, instead of coming into this immense sort of space that you would expect if you were in a unit, in a complex with 1,000 units and lots of buildings and all that kind of stuff, here you walk into what we're defining as the grand lobby, where in fact you're received into a foyer. Okay. And then that foyer transitions into a sitting area. Okay. And off of that sitting area is the access to the elevators. But beyond that is a bayfront lounge that feels very much like a Florida room might in your home. Okay. And then there's an outside patio and ultimately the pool. So when you open those first doors, if in fact the doors to the rooms are all open, you can see right through to the bay. And it's a scale that sort of hugs you, and it feels very much like home. Then the apartments, the residences, are all extremely comfortable. They're large. How big spaces. Are they? They're from about 2,600 square feet and
the smallest one?
Yes.
Wow, okay. Yeah, so it's a completely different project in Edgewater.
It is completely different. It reminds me of when we put Apogee in the market.
Right,
we were doing South of Fifth.
South of Fifth.
You know, neighborhoods start to mature, and as they mature, they require a higher level of sophistication and luxury. And this neighborhood, we felt that after the several buildings, each one better than the other, that had been built and some have already been delivered, was ready for this type of product. So when you walk into this product, you're going to see, and hopefully we'll be able to show the audience some examples of the finishes. It's the first building to have gas. Okay. It's got Wolf appliances. Oh, wow. The new Sub-Zero refrigerators that are just amazing. The other day I had a presentation. I didn't know I could get so excited about a refrigerator.
Exactly.
It's amazing. You know, they have their filtration systems for both the freezer and the water. It's got a hidden water device. It's got this filter in it that takes away all the mildew and keeps your food. All this technology. It's just incredible. So all of those things are being introduced into this building to make it really special. And the master, we have Waterworks, which I've never seen any developer use in a high-rise. So it's elevating all of the appointments in the bathroom to a whole different level, and you'll see the design is just amazing. And of course, working with Jean-Louis has been a whole different journey. This is a designer that's used to doing multi-million-dollar homes, and so approaches it with that level of attention, detail, and textures. It's been amazing to watch him work and incredibly challenging to render his vision, because as I've now become an expert in renderings, and the renderers are telling me, listen, it's easy when it's all, you know, white and beige, or white and silver, as we see so many renderings here, and then there's a little chiffon going this way. It says, but when you're rendering, you know, textures upon textures and the moldings and the details, it says it gets very complicated. So our journey to be able to actually get those renderings done and be able to communicate that vision has really pushed the envelope of every single person we've worked with. I think the product is going to be very unique to Miami when you go to that 30th floor amenity deck. Which is,
well, how many floors is the building?
The building is 56.
Okay.
I'm guessing, but
that's close.
Building. That's horrible. But I don't remember exactly, but we'll confirm it.
Okay.
And the amenity deck is on the 30th floor. And so then again, it feels like a wonderful home. So you have this formal, gorgeous dining room that's overlooking all of this magnificent view again. And before you get to your dining experience, there's a piano bar, and there's this wonderful living room, and a library, and, you know, of course you have the children's area, and you have the theater where, you know, the screening room. So you have all of those command performances things, but they're presented in a much more residential way that makes you feel that you really did come home and not to a hotel or a complex.
And now, I mean, very few people can explain what's happening in Miami, in the real estate market, and the vision of what's coming up in Miami. So let's start small in this area, Edgewater, and explain to me what has happened in Edgewater for the last 3 to 5 years, and what's on the works for this area in Edgewater after downtown Miami, and then we'll talk about the rest of the South Florida market.
Okay.
So what's your take on Edgewater?
So if I start at the beginning of my take on Edgewater, the magic of Edgewater starts in the fact that it's a neighborhood that's very clearly defined. And I define it with my own boundaries. So the boundaries that I saw when I came here are the Venetian Causeway on the south, the Julia Tuttle on the north, Biscayne Bay on the east, and Biscayne Boulevard on the west. So Edgewater actually bleeds into the west side of Biscayne Boulevard. So I call this neighborhood East Edgewater.
Okay.
And in the same way that when we started selling south of 5th, it wasn't called south of 5th. People just called it that area, or the place where the ice factory
nothing, by the way, at the time.
Which was nothing.
And this is the area where you came to swim when you were a little kid.
Yes.
I remember you mentioned that in the first interview. Yeah, okay.
Right. So, so that's what it reminded me of. It reminded me of south of 5th Street when I got there, and there were crack houses, and there was just, you know, unfortunately, homeless people there, and there was really horrible buildings that were falling apart. And someone with a vision got to that area and said, wow, what an opportunity. So East Edgewater is very much that opportunity because it's a defined neighborhood. It has a very clear beginning, it has a very clear end. It's right on the waterfront, which of course the name of the game is on the water in Miami.
Biscayne Quarter.
Biscayne Quarter, which gives you connectivity, the 2 bridges to the beach. And then, just to the west of us, you have this incredible infrastructure waiting for residents to come, because you have the design district that every day gets more exciting.
Wynwood.
And as Reed, one of our developers here, told me, he says, Alicia, if you take a compass and put it on Hermes and draw a circle around it, you're not going to find one place where real estate hasn't done anything but go up. And I thought, you know, that's absolutely correct. So we're within a stone throw away from Hermes in the design district, which we all know is gorgeous. And then we're also right by Midtown, which offers you a lighter experience. It's more pedestrian, if you will, than the design district. And then we're also across from Wynwood, which offers you this opportunity to let your mind wander and imagine almost anything.
The artistic.
With the artistic, and it's really on the cusp of creativity. To the south, we have the Performing Arts Center with the PAM Museum already finished and the Science Museum that will be finished, God willing, in 9 months. And then, of course, the American Airlines Arena. All of that is literally within 5 to 10 minutes of this location.
And how soon do you think the whole Edgewater area will be fully developed with the parks, with the corridor, with the all the residential amenities and the commercial amenities? 2 or 3 years, or what's your take, by 2020 or 2018?
I think by, let's see, we're in 16 now. I think by 2020 we'll be scrambling to find a site that's not developed.
Okay.
What's happened already is that 3 new buildings have been developed already. And yesterday I was looking at the pictures from Icon Bay, which has been delivered, and was very pleased with what's happening on the boardwalk there. It gives you a real picture of how this is all going to connect with the river. And so when we're talking about doing a photo montage to show the area, to have that piece of Icon Bay completed is a beautiful thing. So Icon Bay is completed, delivered. Before that, Bay House was completed and delivered and occupied. So it's showing how the neighborhood is transitioning very, very quickly. We have coming up and on, you know, a good schedule, in fact on schedule and perhaps ahead of schedule for completion of Biscayne Beach, which will be followed by the Paraísos.
Right.
So you're going to have like 4 or 5 buildings, 6 maybe, 7, that will be completed and new as anchors in this neighborhood. The bayfront sites are just about all spoken for. And so then what we're talking about is infill towards the west, where there's going to be great opportunity for more affordable residences to be built. And I think what we're going to start experiencing closer to 2020 is that the appreciation for the landlocked sites is really going to take off. Not unlike what we've seen in Brickell Avenue, where sites that we would have never thought were, you know, going to sell at the prices they're selling now,
I mean, it's
are
amazing.
now off the charts. You know, and for instance, we're selling Flatiron, and the success of Flatiron that my sister has experienced in that marketing effort in the last 2 months has been
incredible.
Incredible, absolutely incredible. So the opportunity in Edgewater is that you can have a bayfront, very high luxury level product for the same price in terms of $1 per square foot as you could be on Brickell Avenue in a landlocked site with not the level of luxury. So these are exceptional choices for our audience. It's almost unheard of that in a city that is as fully developed as Miami, those opportunities still exist. And of course, if you compare it to the beach, you're at less than 50%. Because in this job, we're selling at an average of about $750 a square foot. which is less than half, well less than half of a building of this category if you were on the beach. Yeah.
Now, I interviewed you back in the beginning of 2015. What's the difference in terms of the market, real estate market from 2015 and 2016? What do you see the difference, just not only in Edgewater, but in South Florida?
I think the most exciting thing is that the buildings that we've started in this cycle are being delivered.
Okay.
And
not compared to 2008 and 2009, right?
Well, the buildings were all delivered in 2008 and 2009, and I've often reminded many people in our industry that the only people that stepped up and did what they were supposed to do were the developers and the brokers. The banks caved and the buyers went away.
I remember you saying, Mom, if the banks fail us, we're going to have a big problem, right?
But my mother told me that.
And I remember that you had 50 units on, I think,
yes.
in Biscayne and...
and 50 Biscayne.
And 50 Biscayne, exactly.
Oh my gosh, it was absolutely dreadful. That having been said, the magic of the city is that the developers finished their units. And contrary to all the naysayers, that inventory was absorbed. It was bought not by funds who were buying on 25 cents on the dollar, but by individuals that were buying at tremendous prices, but not 25 cents on the dollar, which was very important. And then, even more important, all of these residences were occupied. In fact, when we started this cycle, the city was about 97 to 98% occupied, which really is 100% because that 3% is
it's just part of the market, right?
You know, you move in, you move out, it's turnover. So the city definitely proved that if you built it, they will come. And come they did. So there's huge fundamental differences between the market we're in now and
what are those differences between the market that we're now in 2016 and 2015?
We can talk about that, but we have to back it up a little more. Because when this cycle started, it started on a basis of cash.
Right, that's the key point.
Very important.
Very, very important.
Because everything that had closed in the last cycle, perhaps not because people wanted to, but they had no choice.
Not only cash, but much higher down payments.
There was no financing. So all of those units that closed that were built in the last cycle were closed in cash, rented successfully, or occupied by owners. And they're still occupied by those owners. And the rents have gone up, as you know, about 30% at least. So that inventory is very solid. We're not talking about concerns that that inventory is going to go into foreclosure. There's just no possibility of that.
That's a great point. Those properties were closed as cash deals, not finance.
Exactly. So they're, for many people, they're just cash cows. You know, they're sitting there collecting their dollars every day. And by the way, every day those dollars are worth more. There's no debt service to those apartments. So, no debt service.
And many of those buyers are from South America.
Many of them.
Where the dollar has appreciated so much, then those rental payments every single month is worth way more money in their country.
And if you think about what a fortune they've made, they bought it in a depressed market when the dollar was depressed, and now they own these properties in a rising market when the dollar is very high, cash with debt-free and with tenants in place if they're not living there. So it was an absolute home run for those generation buyers of the last cycle. So in this cycle, we started with those incredibly strong fundamentals and with a city that was much more exciting than the city we started with before, because the infrastructure continued to develop. You know, when I put it into context by saying when I was selling in the last cycle, the iPad didn't exist. I mean, it's absurd.
Right. Now the iPad is
can you imagine? Now the iPad is almost
now every single unit has an iPad.
You know, but here's what we were living, right? So that's how much the world has changed. It changes so fast. And by the way, that's the kind of technology that these buildings are introducing. When I was talking about the Sub-Zero Wolf experience, it's like, what? You know, so all of these changes have happened to our city that has put us on the map. As you know, for the wealth index, it went from, I think it went from 9 to 8 to 7.
Now we're 6.
Now we're 6. And by the way, no one's telling us we're not going to be 5 next year. In fact, all indications are that that's exactly the direction we're going in. So this cycle starts on that fundamental. Then
do you worry about the number of units available right now? Supply or not?
Listen, I worry about everything. That's my job.
There you go. Okay.
My job is to worry so my clients don't have to worry. So I take a look at everything, but I worry every day when I come to work. You know, that's what I do, right? I worry about what could go wrong and how I can make whatever's going right go better. You know, I say that my job is to worry so my clients don't have to. So when we started in this cycle, which was really panicked, I remember when I got the first call from a developer says, I think we're ready to build something. I was like, I didn't even know what to say, you know? So we looked at the fundamentals, and in fact, it was time. And I'm so glad, because we delivered that building. It's fully occupied, and it was the first building to be delivered in Brickell, or maybe the second, right after my Brickell, but of course a much larger building. So it was all good, right?
Because I agree, the fundamentals in Miami are extremely strong.
Extremely
strong.
But
real estate is cyclical.
100%.
So we need to see where we are in the cycle. That's all. But the fundamentals, I mean, the location, the people you mentioned during the last interview, the type of buyers that are coming to Miami. It's not only South American, very strong rich people from New York, from California, from Europe. The advantage we have in terms of taxes is just makes South Florida so attractive. So the fundamentals are there, but where do you see us in the cycle right now?
I think we're about mid-cycle right now. I think we're about mid-cycle right now, and the numbers would support that. So the absorption has decreased. I have to point out that absorption is also a factor of supply. And a lot of the absorption that they're tracking, for instance, the report that just came out that ISG does, which is such a good report.
Yeah, the Miami report.
Yes.
An amazing report with Craig and Philip.
Yeah, they do.
I had him in the show 2 weeks ago.
I know. They do a great job, and they do a great job presenting the information. So the part of what they're showing is that the absorption has slowed. On the flip side is that the offering has also slowed. So I oftentimes remind my clients that absorption is also a percentage of inventory available.
Of course.
So you're not going to be selling 50 units a month if you only have 60 units left. Or whatever that magic number might be. So that's part of it. Now, that having been said, we've been in the cycle for a couple of years now, and a lot of the buyers that were sitting on the sideline waiting to come in have stepped in. And of course, the strength of the dollar has sent a shock wave through the world. So I think what we're experiencing is a settling now, where things are kind of relaxing. And with that, then happens what I think we refer to nowadays as the new normal. People get used to the new condition, and the question is, what are they going to do with their money? And at the end of the day, it is, I think, more clear now than it has been probably in the last 20 years that the best place to put your money is the United States of America.
By far.
By far.
By far.
So the U.S. has come up as the big winner in this global shakedown. And therefore, what are you going to do with your money? Are you really going to keep your money in Germany or in France? Are you going to take your money to Europe? Are you going to take your money to China? Or are you going to bring your money to the United States? And that answer, I think, is more self-evident now than it has been in a long time. So there is a preponderance of money in the world that's looking for a place to go. So the United States is always a great start. And then add to that, one of the most exciting cities in the world by all accounts. And you know, before we used to go out there saying, "Hey, we're a very exciting city. You know, come see us. Look how great we are." But now, whenever we travel, and it's not just South America anymore, wherever you travel, whether it's Europe or the Far East, and you say you're from Miami, people get so excited.
Super excited.
Super excited. And by the way, the conversation is usually, I'm going to Miami, or I just came back from Miami, or I can't wait to get there. So it's not something that they're thinking about abstractly. It's something that they're living real time.
I think that the only thing that has slowed down a little bit sales in Miami is just the strength of the dollar right now. But it's agree with you. But it's such an easy objection to overcome. If you're planning to buy a property in Miami, which, you know, properties are going up or down in price, they're going up in price, and the dollar or their currency in South America or in Europe is going down, the more you wait, the more the prices go up, and the more the currency goes down. So the faster you buy, the cheaper it's going to be for you.
It's always a quandary, right? What that perfect timing is. And I think in life, the one lesson that we learn, and the older we get, the clearer it becomes, that the right time is right now. You know, there's just nothing to wait for in life. The right time is right now.
What happened 4 or 5 years ago, I don't foresee it happening under any circumstances right now.
And I have to tell you, the people that sold 4 or 5 years ago because they didn't believe that they were going to see their returns, right now are very sorry that they did that. Because in fact, the city came back bigger and stronger. We have to remember that real estate is always a game about staying power. And you have to go into real estate.
Staying power is a key factor in real estate.
Yes. And staying power is not just having the money to hang in there, it's having the will.
Right.
You know, so if you don't have the will to stay in the real estate game on the long-term basis, then you shouldn't be in the real estate game.
That's a great point.
You should be doing something else with your money. So
now there is also a regulation now that the Fed
yes.
It's going through right now. I don't know exactly the phase, which is to go under cash transactions over $1 million.
Right.
Right. Pursuing those buyers and exactly what they're doing with their money, or
right.
or reviewing what, I don't know what the word I should use for that. But it's just to oversee the people that are buying properties actually in Miami and New York over $1 million in cash.
Right.
Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yes. It's $1 million in Miami
right.
and $3 million in New York.
Okay.
So this law really came out of nowhere, and by that I mean that no one knew it was coming.
Okay.
So when they say that, everybody was kind of in shock, because what does that mean? And I think the reason I was in shock anyway is because I found it very odd that the United States of America would pick two cities
audit, right.
and target them.
Right.
Because two of the most successful cities in the country
right.
were targeted.
Right.
It almost looked like bad intention behind it. Because if they had done that for the entire country, hey, it is what it is.
Right.
You know, we have to protect the country, and if that's what we need to do, that's what we need to do. So that was very odd, because honestly, if there's a bad guy, I was just quoted in the paper saying they're laughing all the way to Broward County. I mean, who cares? Okay, I can't buy in Dade County. Oh, that's an extra 10-minute drive. You know, and the same thing in New York, right? You just pick another place, you're right there. So I don't even know what they're trying to accomplish. The reality is that when we looked into the law, it's even more absurd, because the only thing that they're checking is people that come in with suitcases of cash or cashier's checks. I mean, I don't remember the last time I had
a buyer going into a sales center with $1 million in cash.
A suitcase of money. I remember once in my life looking at the guy in a panic attack, the nicest guy in the world, in the steel business, totally kosher. I mean, 100%. And I looked at him, I said, "Are you out of your mind? You could get mugged." And I remember running to the bank, and him and I pounding on the door because the bank was closing. I'm going, "No." And they opened for us, and we deposited the money. That was it. But that happens, like I said, once in my life, and it was
an exception.
And it was bizarre,
right.
you know, and nobody does that anymore. To begin with, you can't. It's illegal to bring money in suitcases or whatever. And also, cashier's checks who uses cashier's checks anymore?
It's a wire transfer, and that's it.
It's a wire transfer, that's it. Cashier's checks, if anything, are used on rental properties. Because people are opening bank accounts, so they want to get into their apartments quickly. However, at a closing, a cashier's check,
it's done by the title company, and that is it.
You don't see a cashier's check. It's all wire transfers. So when we found out what they were really saying with the law, it became irrelevant. Unfortunately.
Oh, that's a key word. It became irrelevant. Why nobody buys an apartment cash? Especially $1 million.
Or with wire transfers.
Right.
People buy, they wire their money through the banks, and that's
and that's where they clean. I mean, that's where
it's checked.
That's where the what they call it know your customer process goes through. Is the bank.
It's the bank.
Right.
So the unfortunate part about this is that they announce this law, everybody freaks out. Because I constantly remind people that most of the people that are bringing their money to Miami are bringing their money for all the right reasons. And a lot of them are escaping very bad people in their own countries, bad governments. You know, they've been blackmailed by their governments. They've been blackmailed by the cartels. They've been kidnapped. There's a lot of bad things that happen in the world, which gratefully don't happen in Miami. Because when we talked about the beautiful things about this city, the most beautiful thing about this city is how secure we all are walking around in our gorgeous weather with the sun shining in the middle of February. I mean, it's just an amazing combination.
It's 58 today, and I didn't want to play tennis because it was too cold.
Imagine, you know? So this is the reality we have here. So these very good people obviously go into a state of panic. So when you explain to them, hey, this is what's going on, they're no big deal. No big deal. Unfortunately, it was not communicated well to the industry, to the country. And therefore, it just creates more work for everyone. And I'm sure that there'll be some loss of opportunity because people are not well informed. And so in a moment of fear, they don't do anything, or they go to Boca. What can I tell you?
Now, you manage a very successful real estate company, Cervera Real Estate, for many, many years. Founded in what, 1970?
It was founded 46 years ago now. So 1970, I don't know, do the math.
So in the 70s, and you manage hundreds of real estate agents. What is the number one challenge you see real estate agents facing today in 2016?
I think that it's the need to know so much information. The world has become very global. And so it's not enough to know what's happening in your city or in your state or even in your country. To be truly successful in our international market, you have to have a tremendous awareness of what's happening in the world.
Extremely informed.
Extremely informed. And that is a very tall order. So I think that one of the advantages in our company, quite frankly, is that we have always worked with international markets. We work with domestic markets as well, but international markets, we've built our platform on that. We've been servicing them for years. So it's part of the company DNA. So for you to walk into our office and hear a conversation going on about the elections in Argentina or the change in Venezuela, it's normal. You know, just like we're talking about the impact of the taxes in New York or California, this is all normal stuff. Or look what's happening in France or what's happening in Turkey. So I think that that's a challenge for the real estate agents here, is how do you get this access to the right amount of global information to make you be able to speak appropriately when you're talking to the very diversified clientele in the United States, and also, and in Miami particularly, identify where the opportunities are. I think that's one of the big challenges. You know, in a lot of places they don't have to think about global currencies, they don't have to think about so many languages, they don't have to think about how many airport routes are coming into the city. All of these things that are fundamentals for success in our city.
Now, we've learned so much from the interview we had with you and your mom last year. Remember, you mentioned beautiful quotes. One is, in every challenge there is an opportunity, and there are not opportunities without challenges. You mentioned the importance of working very hard. You said, my mom told me that I had to be the first one in and the last one out.
Right.
You also mentioned when you read a book about Bill Gates, you said, I learned to think for 20 minutes every single day, and I made more money up until that point once started applying that. You also mentioned something very, very interesting about marketing. It's, you know, you can't sell anything you don't market first. I mean, this business is about marketing.
Right.
You said some of the advice to your daughter, it's if it is, you need to take risk, right? If it is not illegal or immoral, do it. You mentioned that too. And then also something that I remember very, very vividly at the end of the conversation, you said, nothing is worth wrinkles. So if you can't do it with a smile on your face, don't do it, all right? So that was back in 2015.
Right.
Any advice you would give a new agent, and then we go into experienced agent, but a new agent that's just getting started, 2016, so many things, so much information that I need to learn. Where do I get started? What do I do?
Right.
Number one advice.
Number one advice is pick a company that you have access to the leadership and to the intellectual capital, because the intellectual capital is key. And also I would tell the younger people and the people getting into this business that they have to understand that this is not a light switch.
There you go. It's not overnight success.
It is not overnight success. However, it is more success and faster success than in almost any other industry. So the opportunity is tremendous, but you have to earn it.
Yes.
You have to earn it. And I'm finding that people are very impatient, and that there is an all of nothing is better than part of something mentality sometimes. And I think especially when you're starting, you have to be willing to give up a lot in order to get a lot. And that equation will evolve over time. I oftentimes tell agents that, I tell them all the time, half of something is so much better than all of nothing. Right? And half is a good number because almost everybody can divide by 2. And if you keep it simple, you're usually successful. So think about other things rather than your paycheck, and your paycheck will come.
And actually, you mentioned something now that I remember during the last interview. You said, I asked you the characteristics of a successful agent, and you said it's a combination of being disciplined and entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Right? Being an entrepreneur. And an entrepreneur doesn't get a paycheck until he's fully prepared. I say that in coaching, when I'm coaching agents or I'm doing a seminar. It's if you want to become An accountant, where do you go? College. For how long? 4 years. And how much you need to invest? $100,000. The same thing if you want to be an architect, more if you want to be a lawyer and a doctor.
Right.
But if you want to become a professional real estate agent, where do you go? To real estate school. For how long? 63 hours. And how much do you invest? $500. You see the discrepancy? So like you said, you need to invest the time, the right knowledge, join a company that you have access to the leadership and the intellectual capital of that company, and prepare.
And prepare.
We got 41,000 agents right now.
Yeah.
Right now.
You know, exactly. And one of the things also that they say that if you're bored in your job, you should find a new job. You know, and I have to tell you, it was very interesting because I think we all hear that. And you know, repetition makes perfection, and anything that you do over and over and over again gets boring.
But what you just said is so repetition makes perfection.
Yes.
I quote every single group session that I finish every Tuesday.
Yeah.
I finish like every single one, and I've done it for many years. I say a quote from Bruce Lee. He says, "I don't fear the person who practices 10,000 kicks one time. I fear the person who practices one kick 10,000 times." Big difference. It's all repetition, repetition, repetition.
Yes.
Very important.
So I think that people confuse expertise with boredom. You know, when you do things over and over again, yeah, you wake up one morning, you're bored, you know. However, that shows you you're really good at what you're doing. This is not the time to quit. This is the time to get going. You know, people oftentimes ask me, I'm celebrating my 30th wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So March 8th. And they said, Alicia, how do you do it? You know, have you been in love for all 30 years? I said, are you out of your mind? You know, there's been times when I've been ready to kill him, definitely not in love with him.
And it goes both ways.
You know, I'm sure. You know, do you think I'm easy to love with? And so I said, but I never stopped loving him. And I never stopped believing in the principles of marriage. So those times got me through all that other time. And I think with work, it's the same thing. You have to love what you're doing, but you don't have to be in love with it every day.
Exactly.
You know,
so there's a book, a wonderful book by Carl Newport, a professor of MIT, that is called "So Good They Can Ignore You." And the premise is that don't find something that you love. You love something once you become so good at it. All right. So it's not finding a passion, it's finding the passion on becoming so good at it that they can ignore you. It's all about that repetition, and that's what I say in coaching. If I can give you one gift for group coaching, one-on-one coaching in my seminars, is the love of developing yourself as a real estate professional. Then you won't have any competition at all. At all.
And the other thing, when I was younger, my mom would take a lot of time on every detail. This place has to be like this, and this has to be like that. And it would make me crazy. I'm like going, Mama, who cares? You know,
it matters.
Honestly, as I get older and more professional, I understand more and more every day that everything is a collection of the details. And if the details aren't right, the product is not right. So focus on the details, every single one of them. When you get up every morning, you look in that mirror, you make sure you've done the best that you can do to look the best that you can for the part you're going to play. And we play different parts in life on different days and at different times. So it's important that you adjust to that. And that you go through your professional career, and I think very much your personal life, with that kind of philosophy, that you're going to make things as great as they can possibly be. And that doesn't start with the big things. That doesn't start by saying, I'm going to be the best realtor on the planet Earth. That starts with being, I'm going to be the best new agent. Today. And then I'm going to be the best new agent in this company. And then I'm going to be the best of the best. It's a journey, but if you don't start with that demand for excellence in every single detail, you'll never get there. You just won't.
Very, very good, Alicia. What about, last question of the show today, the interview. An advice for an experienced agent, a person who's been in the business for 15, 20 years, doing well, but he wants to excel even more.
I'm going to tell them that if it isn't broken, don't fix it. I think a lot of agents are thinking, I've got to go into the super luxury market. They've been incredibly successful in the mid-level market, and they want to make this quantum shift into the super luxury market. So what I would tell them is, take a class from that super luxury market, apply it to your mid-level market, and double your sales in that market. Not everybody has to do the same thing. And if you become an expert and a master in that thing, it may be in your best interest to stay there. And if you're a very experienced agent and you are looking into the uncertainty that our business always has, remember to balance what you're making today with what you may not make tomorrow. Because we are in a cyclical market and in a cyclical business. And the opportunities are enormous. The challenges can also be enormous.
I remember you said something that last interview. You said, don't ever assume that what created your success in the past will create your success in the next cycle. Remember that.
Yes, because things evolve constantly. And part of what happens is that there's a tendency to slow down when things get slower. So I would tell you, take a breath and then speed up.
There you go. There's a tendency to slow down when things get slower, and we should do completely the opposite.
Yes.
Very, very good point.
That is the time to really gear things up and to tighten everything up. You really, if there's a time to go from good to great, it's when things are slowing down.
Amazing.
It's also the time when you have time to do that.
Exactly.
Because other times you're running
Very
so
good
fast.
Point. Very good point.
You know, that who has time to do that? But when you have more time, that's the time.
Exactly. Alicia, it's been a true honor and a pleasure having you again. It's always nice to see you, talk to you. I learn so much every time we have the time to talk to each other. Thank you for having me in your beautiful Elysee offices, and I'm looking forward to interviewing you again.
Well, I look forward to it as well, and I look forward to seeing all your podcasts. They're so wonderful. I learn so much every time.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Until next time, make it a very, very productive day. Take care, guys.